cloud. It's going to be safer, isn't it? Because let's face it, my PC is going to be dodgy. Okay, I'll.
Is there a specific link that I can sort of grab so I can just pin it?
Yeah, let me put it into. I've just sent you an email actually. It's in your emails. There's a link on the bottom, a zoom.us link.
Oh, just the one that I used to join. Fine.
No, not that one.
That one's a panelist one. So there's one in there that's a, an out for everybody kind of thing. Let me go and find it. I don't want to press too many buttons, to be honest with you. Let's go and have a look at the email I just sent.
Oh, I've just seen your tweet. That's fine. That's all good.
You found it? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah, we're all good.
Okay, well, that was social oomph, so that's good. Okay, no Hannah, right. I'm going to go anyway. I reckon Hannah's going to arrive on us right at the start of the thing. But I knew she was up against it. I can't blame her that much. Right, I'm going to press the broadcast button and then we'll chat for a few minutes because people take a while to come in and then get going. Yeah, ready?
Sounds great.
Okay. Hi everybody, and welcome to the second Majestic webinar, the first of the year. Thank you very much for coming in. We've got a great panel up today. We've got unfortunately one that couldn't make it, Bill Jr. So Bill Senior's here, but Bill Jr. Actually didn't get permission from legal, I think it was, Bill, wasn't it, to come in. But we're going to be talking today about old guard versus new blood. So the great thing about the panel that we've got here is we've got people that have been in the industry for a long period of time, and I have to put Bill and myself very much on that footing. And we've got on the other end of it, Tom, who's been here in the industry and has just won in 2019 the young star of search at the UK Search Awards. And Jenny kind of, you kind of straddle both sides really for us. We've also got Hannah coming, but Hannah's been running a meeting all day, and she's just warned me that she's here, but she might be a little bit late, so we're going to have to deal with that. Firstly, I want to start with a shout out to Majestic before we get going for helping to sponsor the event, for getting it off the ground. A lot of you have come in through the Majestic newsletter, I know. And if you haven't had the chance to check out Majestic's link context that they brought out last year, which really goes into the granularity of links, do have a look at that on the Majestic blog. So today's webinar looks at the difference between the attitudes of young professionals in the SEO industry and how they differ from those that worked in SEO for decades. So let's ask you all to introduce yourselves. Tom, perhaps you can start with yourself.
Sure, yes. So I'm the technical SEO director at SEO company based in the UK called Blue Array, purely focused on SEO. I sort of head up the technical team there. I'm working on some really, really cool stuff at the moment, like the Blue Array Academy, so all sorts of other really, really cool products that should be hitting the spotlight very, very soon.
That's great. Jenny, do you want to chime in?
Sure. I'm Jenny Hallis. My company is JLH Marketing. It's a SEO and analytics consultancy that's just me. I've been in SEO for a long time. I started in 2000, but I just celebrated my 14th, 29th birthday. So I'm really just young at heart.
Okay, if you started in 2000, it's hard to say you can straddle both sides of the fence, actually, Jenny. I've got to be honest. Bill.
I'm Bill Hunt from Back Azimuth Consulting. I've been doing this for actually before it had a name. Since I wrote my business school thesis was using the internet to reach overseas markets, which morphed into search. So I've seen all sides of this. I've been on the corporate side, built and sold a couple agencies, and now focusing more on high-level business and global market entry strategy, specifically using search in emerging markets.
Okay, that's great. Thanks all of you for coming in. I appreciate the time that you're taking out.
See, I'm way younger than Bill in terms of search.
Yeah, I know.
You represent the young blood.
Okay, in that case, I'll go on the old. That's fine. Before we start the panel proper, I also want to thank the audience. Oh, we've got Hannah coming in. I'd like to thank the audience while she's coming in for the questions that they asked. I asked everybody if they would like to ask a question of the panelists on the way on their registration. I'm going to blend those questions a little, so I may use your first names. I won't use your surnames just in case, except for Michael Bonfield, who asked an absolutely outrageous question, which I'll try and fit in at the end. So I hope that most people that registered will at least get one question that they or a flavour of a question that they wanted to ask. But I want to start with firstly saying hi, Hannah.
Hi, sorry I'm so late.
No, we're glad that you're here. We're glad that you're here. We've lost Bill Jr. as well. Do you want to just quickly give us a little bit about yourself before I dive in?
Yeah, of course. So I'm Hannah. I am head of SEO at an agency called Found. And kind of all of my experience so far, I've got 6 years experience working SEO, predominantly technical with a bit of content. But now I'm really focused on like growth SEO and how we actually drive like real business change through the work that we do.
Okay, great. So now we've got you got some feedback on your.
Oh, better?
Yeah, probably better.
Yeah, sorry.
It's not better. If you can mute yourself when you're not speaking, that'd be great. Okay, so we got. In that case, Bill and Jenny on the old guard, and Tom and Hannah on the young bloods. Sorry, Jenny, I've got you. On the old guard.
I was so close.
You know, time just takes over for everybody. So I want to start with everybody giving me one idea of what you think the other side is getting wrong or bringing to the industry in a potentially bad way. I'm going to start with Tom. You know, what is it that you think those that started out in SEO, 250 years ago, are doing that is perhaps not great for the industry today?
That's a pretty good question. I don't really want to offend anyone here, so I'm going to keep it fairly light.
Just keep it general. Yeah.
I think maybe sort of sticking to sort of older methods, maybe stuff that worked sort of 5, 10, 15 years ago, as opposed to stuff that no one's really tried yet. They don't really want to try anything new. Maybe sort of sticking with the tried and tested methods rather than experimenting a little bit more. I find that, yeah, could be a...
You're suggesting that maybe the odds of lack innovation these days.
Potentially, yes. Like they prefer to be comfortable with what they know and what they're like good with.
Okay, we'll come back to that maybe a little later. And then Bill, do you want to go the other way?
I'm literally going to go the other way. I think that that's one thing we run into a lot is people will see something, a headline in social media, and the next thing you know, it's being recommended to be implemented. And it's one thing to do it on sort of a non-revenue generating platform, but to suggest that to a company that this is their livelihood can be risky. Now, if it's backed up by fact and they've proven it, but a lot of times I see that I have to unravel these where that's what it was. We saw this latest greatest thing. It's a misunderstanding of the application, but in the quest to be fast and to be innovative, I often see that becoming a problem for people.
Okay. I've got a note of that. We'll come back to that. And then Jenny, what are you going to go for?
Well, I think the things that I see from the younger generation that I think are potentially harmful, not necessarily, is that, well, first off, they really trust Google. They trust that Google's actually telling them the truth. And that's something we just never really used to do. So I think that there's a little bit too much, hey, Google says this is what we need to do, so we need to do it, as opposed to actually testing and learning for themselves whether it works or not.
Okay, cool. And Hannah, for the youngs, do you want to come back? Don't forget to turn your mic off.
Yeah, of course. Big question. I actually, to kind of carry on from Jenny's point, I would probably say that what I found with some people that have maybe been in SEO for a bit longer is that they try and fight Google. Like, I definitely am not one of the people that trusts Google, but I also know to like pick a battle I can win. And I think like, as a lot of the younger people kind of accept, like you are going to be giving up a lot of traffic to answer boxes and that kind of insert feature. You are going to get rubbish data back, and you kind of work with what you have rather than kind of being angry at Google for what it once took from us.
Okay, that's really interesting, and I think it's a great juxtaposition that we're going to come back to, those sort of different leanings between old and young, and I like that there's a divide. It's going to make for a better debate, I think. Before we go into those and dig down to those a little bit, I've got a lot of people here from Majestic signups, and they have a desire to talk about links. So I want to start with the question of trust. For example, Kim asked which black hat techniques still work, who's responsible for giving SEOs such a bad reputation? Is it the old guards, the new bloods? Or is it search engines in the way that they communicate with us? Is the reputation of SEO getting better or worse as time goes on? Well, let's start with that one and then ask the link one. Who wants to go with that one? Is SEO getting more or less reputable?
Pick me.
Go on.
Sorry, guys. I had to be quick on the unmute button. I think that the reputation of SEO is probably getting worse. Like, since I've worked in SEO, now everyone knows what it is. Like, before I'd find people would be like, oh, you do something in Google and confuse it with paid ads. Now it feels like a lot more people know. In particular, client side, they know the difference. They think SEO is black magic. Frequently, my team refer to what we do as smoke and mirrors. We definitely don't, but that's kind of how it gets taken. And I think that's partly the fault of SEOs for like hoarding knowledge. Like the amount of audits I read done by like other companies, other people, where you put to do something, but you've not explained the why, and you're not educating the client at the same time. And if we hide our knowledge and you can't measure us as well as you can measure other channels, of course they're going to think we're rubbish.
Okay.
Anyone else?
Go on.
Yeah, I did a call last week with like a CTO of a $8 billion company, and he prefaced it by, you're like the 27th person that I've had to talk to over the last 10 years, and almost everybody has the opposite advice of the previous. The other one I get is most people have been there, done that with SEO by people that have been less effective, both their doing and the client's unwillingness to do it. So I do think the reputation is becoming worse because, I mean, I think Seth recently from Conductor said it was like, what, 1.7 million people that had SEO in their title. So there's a ton of people of varying degrees. And I think, that's one thing we've never been able to get is any kind of standard. And I think it's to Hannah's point, a lot of people, nobody can agree on what a standard is, a standard of performance or a standard of a tactic. And so we do have a lot of people, old and new, that hide information to try to, look smart or confuse people, or they just don't know. So I think, yeah, the reputation's getting worse. And tactics, again, going, a lot of this cool stuff that people read about, it's interesting how we have to walk some of that back and, sort of explain to people why it may not work or it may not be sustainable. Back to the very first question she asked about, black hat tactics. People want to go there because a lot of the people that are, especially nowadays, that are evangelizing that seem to be cool people, and, they're the ones in front of the flashy car, and, it looks like that's doing really well. Some of it's doing exceptionally well. So I think that's where a lot of confusion comes in. Back to, I think, Hannah's point about respecting Google and sort of playing by the rules.
Okay, but we're not suggesting that that's a function of whether somebody is new to the industry or old to the industry. It's more a function of there's bad actors and good actors, and they're not necessarily an age or experience related thing, right?
Yeah, it's not an age. I mean, I think some of the people that I'm seeing out there now have been there a while, but have always sort of worked in the shadows. They've never wanted any kind of attention. And whether they've got attention through social media or things like that, there's a couple I'm seeing now that I'm like, oh, why are you doing webinars and things like that? That's the kind of stuff you typically didn't share with a wider audience, which may not have the skill level and really, to me, the attention to detail to fulfill effectively. So yeah, it's not an old versus new. I am seeing the older people that have somewhat retired starting to sort of come back in, advocating some tactics that one today might put into sort of a black hat bucket.
Yeah. Okay.
I think to add.
Yeah, sure.
To add to that, and to also go back a little bit to what Hannah said in the previous question about challenging Google, I think that the black hat tactics are becoming more popular in this age of all of these core updates that are not necessarily producing better results. And I think that there are a lot of companies that are getting frustrated with doing the right things and not feeling like they're being rewarded for them.
So you mean they're
kind of
they're
allows
not,
the black hat to flourish.
So you're saying that they're not creating better results for the general public as opposed to the SEO?
I don't think so.
Yeah. Okay. Tom, you don't really have to jump in, but you can.
I think that it's probably the reputation in general is much the same. Obviously, SEOs used to have a more reputation as like snake oil salesmen, just trying to sell this thing that might have worked or whatever. But by being sort of the same sort of reputation, it makes the people who are good at it and who are actually more legit, if you will, makes them stand out like a little bit more amongst this sort of crowd of people who are arguably not as good or not as legit, if you will.
Yeah, I don't know if that's if they are the ones that stand out are the ones that are good or the ones that are good at marketing themselves.
Yeah, good. Yeah, no, for sure.
Including all of us who are on the webinar right now, probably. Okay, right. I'm going to move on, Hannah. I know you wanted to come back in, but I want to get a few more questions out into the webinar, and I don't want to take up too much of everybody's time. Because webinars can go on and on. We have a load of questions related to links. How Daniel asked how to build links the new way. Roxana said link building, the internet used to thrive on that stuff, but nowadays not so much. Do we have to still actively build links, or can we use that time to do other stuff? Chris said scalable link building strategies that are evergreen. Danielo said who's the best link builder? Luke, Ronna, Jason, Melman, a whole load of others. So I know the panels are more generalist than just link building specialists in here. So I may not get the straight answer that the audience are going to be looking for here, but I'll sum it up into one question, which feel free to keep brief if you want. What are the new tactics for link building versus outdated link building tactics? Someone want to jump in there?
Yeah, so I think that positive PR is a better way to put link building these days. You've got to put way more effort into actually acquiring links that actually work. I mean, you can go out onto Fiverr and buy a shit ton of links that will work for like 2 seconds, and then you're going to see a negative impact from those. I think a lot of good link building efforts are focused around actually getting to know journalists, actually putting effort into that side of things rather than just chucking a load of money at it and hoping it works.
Hannah, I'll let you come in.
Yeah, I would completely agree, really. One of the things that I find with link building, like at the moment, like for us, because we're not willing to like do the whole shit tons of links off Fiverr, a lot of our link building is like more PR based, but also we try and do the lowest effort possible in order to get the link. So for example, we take data sources that already exist. Like we did quite a successful piece for a client. We just scraped all of the times of like politicians' major speeches and their tweets with the most engagement and plotted it against the exchange rate of their country for a finance client, and showed the impact that, like, should politicians really be allowed on Twitter? And giving that data to journalists worked really well to get the link for us, rather than us trying to be the expert in the space, trying to be the source on it. Like, it was much simpler to do it that way. And that analysis takes 45 minutes, an hour, rather than a lifetime.
Okay. Olds, do you want to come in with anything?
So I don't actually provide link building as a service, other than, obviously we hope it comes from created great customer service and experiences. However, I do link auditing, and I can go another way and tell you the ones that are really working very well right now. Russian porn spam links. Working really, really well, and there's a ton of it out there. The other one that I'm seeing a lot of is cross-site scripting injection. And then the bookmarking links are having a resurgence lately, where people put articles out on bookmarking sites and link to the articles, and then the articles link to their site. And so it's kind of this, one step removed that makes it a little harder to find.
Okay. Bill, do you want to come in? Then I'll just sum that up, because I think there's some interesting things there.
No, I agree with what everybody said. I think, I try to spend more time fixing links that are going to the wrong page, that are going to the home page versus an internal page. It's very rare that I hear anybody ever ask, if you talk about link building, where do you need links to? So that's sort of what Tom and Hannah were saying about, where do we need them and what kind of content can we curate to get them. I do think it's very important to understand, like Jenny was saying, the back look at what you have, and oftentimes comparing sort of your page to somebody else's page, using like Majestic to do that, often sort of talks people off the wall in terms of thinking they need elaborate link building programs. So that's the way I look at it, is like, what do we need? And it's good to hear the young group focusing on quality context rather than sheer quantity.
So summing that up, I think there is a divide there, which is kind of interesting. The young want to put that positive foot forward, that PR thing forward. What's kind of interesting is that the olds are still seeing the bad stuff working. I mean, I think Google did a pretty good job, way back with the penguins and stuff, of stopping us getting all the bad stuff out there. But there seems to be niggling stories suggesting that they're all coming back in again, and people may be doing things that they shouldn't be. So, okay, we'll leave that out there and say I agree.
Can I ask a question on that, actually?
Yeah.
How long would that old stuff actually work? Is it sustainable? Whereas the PR stuff is surely far more sustainable, right?
I don't know. Well, Jenny's the one that saw them. You said they were working. How long were those links up there?
It's whack-a-mole. Knock one down, there's 20,000 in its place. They win on sheer volume and
constant sort of fire hosing at everything.
Constantly blow a fire hose of links at Google. That's really how they work. And it's always been that way. It's not like it's a new thing. I think one of the things that I always find really interesting about getting to dabble in that kind of darker art is that it really does make us as white hat SEOs more effective to know what the black hats are doing.
Oh, for sure.
I think a lot of it, just to throw in why so many people are doing it, and I don't think it's for an SEO reason. I see a lot of programmatic spam being done to influence sites that's in remnant inventory. So people are pumping and dumping stuff all day long to boost up a site to trigger, the million visit side of that. So we're seeing a lot of old black hat networks and that being resurfaced just for the sole reason, so that they can make, $100,000 off of remnant inventory and programmatic. So that's why, but SEOs are getting sort of the brunt of it because they have to clean it up because stuff that was done before. So I don't know that it's sort of focusing on affecting something today for an SEO reason, but more for the other profit motive of programmatic spam.
I think.
Can I just jump in and ask a question?
Yeah, go on, Hannah.
Just whilst we're on it, asking link questions. I just saw something I've never seen the other day. So a client, well, they're not a client yet, but a client at pitch stage showed us their disavow files because they've had a manual penalty for nearly 2 years and they've disavowed nearly everything. And I'm like, if you've been disavowing so much, their link profile, like, it's not the worst I've seen. Like, there's some Russian porn, and that's the only bad thing. Everything else is fine. And it's quite a well, like, respected brand. I've never seen Google not acknowledge such a solid disavow file. Do you kind of think the weight that it's putting towards them for removing penalties is changing?
I'll come in there if that's all right. I think that probably what they've done is when they've tried to resubmit, it's obviously a manual penalty, they've not explained what they've tried to do, and they should make a good effort of using comments in those disavow files and trying to talk to somebody when they put it in. I suspect they're just putting it in and not properly arguing their case.
So I gave,
Hannah, DM me after and I'll give you some tips for sure.
I gave almost the opposite advice, because they've written essays explaining the process. They've sent emails to people asking to remove the links. Like, they've manually done the lot. And I was like, I've never seen that happen. Just insane.
Most likely there's friendly fire somewhere. So they've got a domain they control or previously controlled or something, and the manual reviewer is looking at that going, you're just making excuses when you could be taking this down. That is by far the most common thing that I've seen in that situation.
Oh, cool. Thanks.
Okay, I want to get back to...
I also wanted to point out really quickly, we've got a comment from one of the people who's watching us, a venerable link builder himself, Frank Watson, jumped in.
Oh, no, he's not here again, is he?
He just jumped in and said that most questionable links last about 6 months for, he says, some of my plays. So I don't know if those are things he's doing or things he's seeing.
Okay, I'm going to go back to the things that you guys brought up right at the start now. And Tom started with the accusation. I'm going to call it an accusation because I think controversy is more fun than agreement. The olds don't innovate. That we're scared. We're doing the old things. We're carrying on doing the same things. Do you want to defend that, olds? Jenny, Bill, do you think that's true?
I'll defend it. I mean, a lot of what I work in the enterprise space. So by the time we try a gimmick or something really innovative, like the big one I'm getting asked a lot about now is all of the service worker stuff. When you got people getting, hundreds of millions of visits, and the idea of putting things out in service workers to affect title tags that they have a business rule to fix is never going to work. It's never going to be sustainable. So while it's very innovative, it's a great way to do it for some sites. For me, getting them to change their business process of how certain things are done on the site tends to work really well. And then that's a pushback I get. This is old school, changing our business process. How is that going to fix anything? Getting certain things in. I get the one a lot from younger SEOs internally that, hey, we've read that, that H tags don't do anything for us. It's like, but then they don't hurt you. And they'll get a developer to remove the H1 on an e-commerce site and in a particular market. And in one case, they lost $40 million in a month. So we put it back, the revenue came back. So, you could argue that it doesn't help, but it neither doesn't hurt. And if the only thing that changed was that. So that's the one risk I see is we do tend to stick to, for me specifically, having been here from the beginning, many of the fundamental things that look like old school stuff still work insanely well.
Yeah, the tried and tested stuff is...
tried and tested, but not just for the sake of doing that. I mean, I still hear from older people, to Jenny's point, that are sort of, big, bad, scary Google, to not do XML sitemaps. Because you don't want Google to see all of your content or some crazy nonsense like that. So I do see a lot of people, sort of sticking to old stuff without any support that it still works, or and same thing true on the other side, the innovative stuff that it necessarily will work in your scenario, and B, that there's any proof other than we've done it on a magical black box and it worked, is proof that something radically innovative should work. So that's just my perception.
Okay, so well, the other side of that was the other divide between the olds and the youngs was, you know, attitudes towards Google, and the olds kind of said you trust Google too much, young ones, and the young ones said you fight Google too much. So, Hannah, you know, what makes you think that Google are good guys?
I don't know if I'd call them good guys. I think like deep down I'm an old soul. Like I get why you'd be suspicious, why you shouldn't trust it. But I think when I first joined SEO, one of the first conferences I went to, there was a talk and the guy said, you shouldn't be using structured data of any variety because you're giving Google your information and it's going to steal it from you.
That was
And
probably me.
I was like, that's cool and all, but like, if they don't steal it from you, they're going to steal it from a competitor. Like they're not just going to like go, oh, okay, we'll go back to 10 blue links and that's it. So you have a choice between getting a minimal bit of brand awareness and the potential you'll get a customer and you can retain them and like get that loyalty back to come direct to you, or you know, you give up and you hand your business over to Google because they're going to go through competitors anyway. So I guess to me, like, it's kind of like just accept defeat and do the best you can with the tools you've got.
I think the argument for the structured data, though, is that, and I'm now involved in structured data left, right, and centre, so I believe wholeheartedly in structured data these days. But you could argue that the structured data turns the ideas and the concepts into a machine-readable language and then is in a database, so therefore nobody gets their hands on it because the database is owned by Google, so everybody loses. So I think that's the argument behind that. But, you know, I think your point is absolutely well met. You've got to deal with what's laid out on the ground and go with it. Tom, I don't know, do you think, yeah, okay, go on, Jen.
I was just going to say, look, we do structured data because we need to, because of the reasons that Hannah outlined. But at the same time, I find an inherent disconnect in saying we need to structure all of the data while we're saying we want to understand natural language. These two things just don't go together as far as I'm concerned.
Okay. Tom, you want to add anything in there, or, you know? Don't feel you have to. It's fine. I just don't want to leave everyone out. The thing is, we've gone through half an hour really quick, so I'm going to just maybe get one more question in before before we wrap up. Motane, I think I've spelled that right, asked, what is in the olds versus the youngs must-have SEO checklists? SEO on page and for blog posts, link building best practice. I'll tell you what, just come up with two or three things that would be on your must-have SEO checklist, and we'll start with the youngs, and then we'll see what the sage senile ones are going with. You know?
Is this for like a technical checklist, or is this for
I don't know
SEO in general?
I didn't ask the question. Motane asked the question, so we'll just knock it out. What are the three things that you think? Two or three things that you think are really important for SEOs right now?
Technical SEO, everything about it. I would say that it's my job. But yes, technical SEO, number one. Number two would be having a good reputation. So whether that's PR, whether that's link building, whether that's whatever. And number three would be knowing your customers.
Okay. Hannah?
I was really hoping you were going to give a longer answer, Tom, so that I'd have more time to think. Like, I was optimistic.
We'll go for the olds and then we'll come
it's fine.
back.
I'm there. Don't worry. I've got it. Okay. So more specific than technical, I'd go with crawlability. So the site being able to be crawled by Google, but also how the authority is able to move through pages in the site. So the internal linking and how it's kind of linked to externally as well. We do a lot on like internal page ranks based on how our site is architected. I would say relevancy with your content and not just producing pages for pages' sake. And then the third one, I would say, not technically SEO, but measurement. Like I personally view SEO can sometimes be a performance channel and sometimes drive direct revenue, but also quite often it's an awareness channel. So we need to look at measurement kind of higher up the funnel and how we do that, as well as all the kind of direct, like let's make some money kind of style SEO.
Jen?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those, the more things change, the more they stay the same. I agree with both Hannah and Tom in terms of the things that they've identified. The only thing I would add is it actually a viable business in the first place? Because if you are building or creating something that has no value, then you're probably not going to be able to rank it.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Bill, anything there?
I personally hate this concept of people talking about technical SEO. I think that's the biggest scam going today. It's just, but I'm gonna leave that there. So, my two areas are the each of the side of what I call the SEO equation, which is indexability. That's to Hannah's point, is it crawlable? It's fascinating how many people have no idea how many of their pages are indexed, and Google gives us that coverage report and nobody cares. We'd rather try a gimmick to do that. So number one is on my checklist is, am I getting indexed and what percentage of my pages? The last one goes to Frank's other question he posted, with this whole featured snippet. I've always had my fourth sort of leg of the table as clickability. About 9 months ago, anticipating this change from Google, I started calling it clickability / informability. And the strategies I've been doing with clients is, are we there, yes or no? And then are we there in the right context, yes or no? And then can we inform someone? It's like the one we have now with Absolute is, how is Absolute made? We have the answer box. There is absolutely no reason anybody can give me why somebody should click through that link. So the fact that I'm answering it correctly at the top of the page, and now that I'm actually the first one on the second page for clicks, we only had clicks when we weren't answering the question. So now that we're answering it. So that's my last one, is look at your snippets, look at whatever you have, whether they're answer boxes or proper text links or whatever they are, and are they answering questions? Because you can be number one all day long, and if nobody clicks because you have a crappy snippet, all that effort is wasted. So those are two things. I think if you focus on those two and do everything else in the middle when you can get to it, that solves a lot of your problems.
Okay.
So
okay,
I'll
guys.
just add
Yeah,
to
go on.
featured snippets that I've been testing things like teasers. So seeing how many characters Google's including in the featured snippet and trying to add something to the end that would be like, in the case of Absolute, check out the 5-step process or something like that. You give them the first bullet, they're going to click through to see the other 4. So stuff like that has been working really well. And then the only thing I would, I think technical SEO is super important. And I think maybe we're calling it the same thing, but one thing I think the Youngs are doing an amazing job of is learning about scripting and specifically how server side versus client side versus hybrid renderings work, and how Google is actually functioning with all of that information.
I think it's an interesting divide though between the old and the young there. I mean, of course, the technical SEO is a cliff. It's a binary thing. If you don't get into your technical SEO right, then the rest is really by the by. But the interesting thing there is that I think that the youngs, I agree with you, are better at doing that kind of new, the youngs probably know a lot more programming than most of the olds, and it's more up-to-date programming, and they just get it a little bit quicker. But I would say that I think there's that indexability, as Bill put it, is more about search engine visibility, not about search engine optimization. So yes, everybody, you need that to get off the ground. But then the idea of saying, right, you need, if you're going to do a how-to, make sure you got more than 4 points, so that so that the feature snippet then forces you to click onto the site and things like that. That's kind of optimization for me, because that forces people to come through to your website. And I think those are still things that maybe the youngs are working on that, that trust Google kind of idea, and the olds are saying, how do we get beyond the Google a little bit. Anyway, I'll leave that there and go on to a last question, because we've gone over my time a little bit. Last question from Michael Bonfils. He's a toe rag, if ever I saw one. Michael Bonfils asks, how many years left until old SEOs have to wear nappies? So the guys that were in there, you know, before 2000, you know, how long have we got left? I've got to admit, senility is starting to crawl into my head sometimes. I can't remember some of the conversations I had yesterday, and so, you know, I reckon I've got 5 years tops, you know. But do you think the olds eventually will have had their day? And if so, when? Go on.
Do our US users or visitors know what nappies are?
Oh, okay. Well, Michael Bonfils is American, so he said nappies. So, yeah, they're basically, you know, tenor pants for men, you know, for olds, I think, you know. When you start wetting yourself as an old person, you've got to be put out to pasture. When should SEOs retire?
When they've had enough of the industry, I guess.
That's my answer. I mean, I'm right there where I'm you know, tired of being tired. But I think that's what it is. When you no longer can contribute both on a client side, I think more importantly, when you no longer enjoy it for whatever reason, that's time to sort of hang it up. But I think this is, to me, it's something you can get a lot of enjoyment out of. You know, the challenge, the rush of fixing something and beating Google, it being Google, or, you know, when that starts to wane away, I think you do need to sort of seek employment elsewhere. But I tell you the one thing to the actual question, apparently I'm in that bracket because Facebook, like, I'm seeing the ads all the time for Depends. So clearly I've tripped the age switch. So maybe that's my sign. Facebook and Google have conspired to.
They'll tell us. They'll tell us when it's time to go.
It's time to go.
Yeah. Okay. All right, guys. So if anybody wants to follow up with anything and they want to get in contact with you, you've got to, you know, where's your favorite hangout? Where can people sort of join in and talk with you? Bill?
Yeah, you can reach me at bill at back-azimuth.com. My personal blog is whunt.com. You can sort of see me there. Bill Hunt on Twitter. I'm old enough to been able to get my name on most things, so I don't use Twitter much, but, you know, go ahead and find me there.
Okay. Jen?
I'm Jenny Hallis on Twitter, and I'm on there a lot, probably more than I should be. And my website is, well, the short link is jlh.marketing. So come on over and check me out.
Tom?
Blue Array, these guys. Captain Tommy on Twitter, check us out.
And Hannah?
Cool. So I'm Hannah J. Thorpe on Twitter, or you can find me over on found.co.uk. I'm quicker on Twitter than email though, so definitely go down that route, because like Jenny, I have a problem.
Okay. Okay, and I just want to say again, thanks everyone to Majestic. Thank you to all the people that signed up and asked questions. Sorry I didn't get around to loads of them. Thanks to Frank for throwing in all sorts of questions in there that we didn't get around to answering either. And I'll just leave you with something that was on television last night. If you're getting overloaded with your iPhone and social media and stuff, turning your phone onto grayscale suddenly switches off a lot of the buzzes, and it's a good way to chill out and get your mind back in gear. Thanks a lot, everyone. I really appreciate it, and we'll see you on the next one. And we're going to close it all down now. Cheers.
Thanks, Dixon.
Good, thank you.
Thanks so much.